Hey guys, welcome back to another Tech Show video. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Nokia C100, an ultra-budget smartphone Nokia markets as a sort of step-up phone, presumably meaning it's a good choice for someone switching from an older feature phone to this being their first real smartphone. Now this device was actually launched in early 2022, so it's not anything new. I just happened to be looking through the various budget devices that were being sold on the Tracfone website and noticed this Nokia C100 that only cost about $40. Apparently you also get $10 off if you purchase it with a plan, which I didn't do, but I did purchase the phone itself because I really don't own any modern Nokia devices and I wanted to see what they were offering on a budget. So here it is, pretty cheaply built as expected, but not quite as bad as the Samsung A01, a device that I've been unfortunate enough to have handled when helping someone else switch from it to a real phone. But the C100 does have a pretty outdated design as far as the screen goes. With those huge bezels, it looks more like a device from 2015 than 2022, but aesthetics aren't as important as the user experience, so I'll give its outdated look a pass. Once you turn it on though, you'll quickly realize the user experience is also similar to a device from 2015. Initial startup and setup was pretty slow, and although they advertised it as having face recognition, it never prompted me to set it up. More on that in a little bit. I was happy to see the UI is pretty much stock Android like what you'd get on a Google Pixel, so it immediately felt like home for me. What you get here that you don't get on a Pixel though is a bunch of preloaded crap, or not really preloaded because the software isn't there to start off with, it just kind of downloads over time. I kept leaving this phone only to come back and see more random games and stuff installed on the phone, and then this so-called Discover bar cluttering up the notification panel. All this really goes against the claim on Nokia's website that states this phone has everything you need and nothing you don't. Definitely not true. But they don't stop there with the over-enthusiastic claims about how great this thing is. Let's compare each claim to reality to see how this thing really stacks up in the real world. First is their claim of a long-lasting all-day battery. This claim isn't really wrong since your battery life will heavily depend on what you do with the phone, and I do believe you could make this battery last for a full day. It just seems a little misleading since it's not that great of a battery, and if you weren't being careful, you could easily run this battery down before you get a full day's use out of it. Heck, I can make my old phone's battery last all day if I'm conservative enough with it. This is absolutely nothing unique to the C100. But let's move on to their second boasting point, which is the camera. On their website, they boldly say, now everyone can be a photographer. Take great photos with the 8-megapixel rear camera and let your selfies shine using a front-facing 5-megapixel camera. No. Let me just tell you right now, if there was ever any doubt, no one's going to be a photographer with this camera. Photos are washed out, way too over-sharpened, and colors are dull. In poor lighting conditions, of course, it's even worse. The HDR mode helps with overall contrast a bit, but the photos you get are still a grainy mess. The camera app performance, though, takes this camera to a whole new level of awful because, well, it doesn't always work. Seriously, sometimes it just doesn't work, and you have to restart the phone. But even when it is working, it's still incredibly slow, and you'll be absolutely guaranteed to never get the shot you were hoping for. And this kind of brings us to the worst aspect of this phone, the performance. Let's jump back to the Nokia website for a second and get their take on the performance of this device. They claim the C100 is powerful and reliable. Further down, they even get so bold as to use the phrase smooth operation, and they say you'll enjoy a highly intuitive experience across the device. This sentiment is repeated multiple times on their website and product videos where they demonstrate just how incredible the phone is. I do appreciate that they did at least use real footage of someone using the phone, which kind of shows how slow the phone is, although I think they slightly sped it up, so maybe that's not a point in their favor. In the performance section of the video though, they're careful to stay on the topic of 4G networks rather than the performance of the phone itself.
The Nokia C100 lets you connect to the world with 4G speed, optimized for everyday performance. And with voice-over LTE support, you can enjoy clear calls with HD quality.
They seem to think this phone being 4G capable is somehow a unique feature, but it's not, since you're pretty much banned from using any lower network standard, at least here in the US. 4G isn't a feature, it's literally a minimum requirement. But back to this phone's actual performance, what's it like in the real world? I think you know where this is going. The words smooth, reliable, powerful, not exactly words I'd use to describe this phone. The antonyms to those words, however, are exactly how I'd describe this device's performance. I seriously wanted to like this device, and all the other bad things I listed earlier, I could deal with those, but not this. I expected it to be slow. That should just be a natural expectation with devices from this price point, but the unreliability is really what got to me. In a way, these modern budget devices are worse than old budget devices. Back then, budget phones were honest about being what they were, just plain old budget phones. These new budget phones, however, try to cover up their subpar specs by forcing them to run the same heavy software that flagships run. This of course backfires in the most spectacular way with constant freezing, glitches, and worst of all, crashing. But when I said earlier that the software is too much for the hardware, I wasn't just talking about installable apps. Literally, the operating system itself is just too much for this thing. Let's talk about the face recognition for a second, because yes, this thing has built-in face recognition as a way to unlock the device. The face recognition on this phone though is almost completely useless. The whole purpose of face recognition is to be more secure and convenient than a traditional password or PIN, but this is neither. I know we're talking about speed here, but let me talk about security for a second. The face recognition feature in most phones uses a sort of 3D scanner that scans the 3D dimensions of your face, so unless someone somehow finds a way to make a perfect physical 3D model of your face, they can't get past the face recognition feature. There are issues sometimes, but that's rare. On the Nokia C100, however, the phone simply uses its front-facing camera to scan your face in 2D, which means all someone needs is a picture of your face and they can easily unlock your device. Let's say you don't really care about that though. Someone would need physical access to your phone and a good picture of your face to get in. It's still more convenient than typing your PIN anytime you want to unlock the device, right? Well, you'd hope so, but unfortunately for this device, that isn't the case. This is where we get back to the unreliability and slowness of the device. It takes a hilariously long amount of time just to initialize the camera, as you can see by the green camera activity notification in the top right corner of the screen. After initialization, it takes up to 5 seconds to scan for faces, and good luck necessarily getting anywhere with it. Face recognition is generally acceptable, but not very reliable. You could easily have put in a 4-digit PIN code in half the amount of time it takes for the face scanning stuff to do its thing. So wait, what I'm saying is this phone's operating system is making it too slow to be practically usable? That doesn't really make sense. What operating system should they have gone with? Windows 95? Yeah, that would actually be kind of cool, but no, seriously, I think these companies need to put better hardware in their phones and maybe better optimize them as well. As it is, sure, this is just a $40 smartphone. That's pretty much as cheap as they get, but still, even if it were free, it's really not worth the headache of trying to get this phone to do anything meaningful. I tried using it seriously for a little while, but couldn't use it for more than a few minutes at a time. I'd say if you're looking for a budget device, buy one pre-owned from somewhere like eBay, where you're not only going to get a good deal, but you're also supporting a small business or an individual person rather than a large company like Nokia. And speaking of the Nokia brand, this is another one of the things I don't like about this device. I feel like it can only get as much attention and trust as it does because it comes from a brand called Nokia, which many people confuse with the Nokia brand that made all the phones we used to love.
And you're getting Nokia. That is a name we have known and trusted in the cell phone game forever. It is a global leader in it. It's a phone, Nokia. I mean, I've had it. That was probably one of my first cell phones ever. It's a name that's been in this cell phone industry for so long.
And like you said, it's Nokia. So this is a company, they've been innovating for 155 years. They've won 9 Nobel Prizes. They're out of Helsinki, Finland. And do you know, Tina, they did $22 billion worth of business in 2020. So this is, when you say global leader, I mean, this is one of the biggest companies out there.
So for those that may not be aware, the real Nokia brand actually still exists, but they don't make phones anymore. They sold their phone business to Microsoft in 2014, then in 2016 Microsoft sold the Nokia phone business to a company called HMD Global, who still makes Nokia devices to this day, including the C100. Now, I'm not trying to bash HMD or anything, I'm just saying the main Nokia company that has been in business since the 1800s has absolutely nothing to do with the Nokia devices of today that are designed by HMD. But getting back to the C100, I really can't recommend buying this phone for anything. Sure, it probably works okay with calls and texts, although I couldn't test that myself since I don't have Tracfone. But why would you want to put yourself or someone else through the pain of messing with this thing? If you need a phone you're mainly going to use for calls, I'd recommend a KaiOS flip phone like the ones from Alcatel or Nokia. These have actually been well tested and proven to be pretty reliable. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. If you have any feedback, positive or negative, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. Also, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.